Perseverance is not just about pushing through difficult times. It's about having the courage to keep going when everyone else has given up. Napoleon Hill. My friends, 10 to 15 minutes each and every day, day in and day out, no matter how tired or sick you are. Do you guys ever see me miss a day? I have been so sick the last few weeks. After we got back from our cruise at Thanksgiving, a few days later, I came down with a cold and then pneumonia. Have I missed a day? I have not missed a day. Why? Because you're that important to me and my commitment is that important to me. If I have a fever and I'm coughing up blood, which I was at one point, I still did this. And I'm telling you, if you don't have that kind of commitment, you are wasting your time. I hope you love the sound of my voice and you find it entertaining, because you will never make it. And that is just the kind of attitude that I adopted when I was in the Marine Corps, when I was at the Citadel. You had to be tough. You had to stand up and be counted no matter what. I remember one of my friends, he was a more senior lieutenant than I was. We first went in the Marine Corps. And one of our troops said, you know, sir, it's supposed to be raining tomorrow. What's the PT plan? That's the physical training plan. And he said, if it's raining tomorrow, we're going to run in the rain. And we did. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how bad you feel. It doesn't matter how worthless you feel. It doesn't matter how much you failed. It just matters that you keep going when everyone else has given up. If you have that attitude, I tell people all the time, if that's your attitude, you will win, because you don't lose until you quit. Now, that's enough preaching from me, but I firmly believe that. Got a little something special for you today. We charted out for you using, of course, this great little tool over here under prediction and measurement tools. We can go to the long position or the short position. Of course, when we had this high volume bottom and then the green spinning top turnaround and our jumping in point there the next week. In fact, we started even a week after this one. If you were a little hesitant, as we may very well have been because of this somewhat fake out here, although when we were talking about it, we did not like the way this looked. But regardless, it spun out the next week, pulled us out of that. If you would have gotten into it, then bottomed, then turned around, you could have waited for this nice big green up candle. Regardless of how you did it, what we ended up doing was starting on that Friday the 10th at the highest point on that Friday. We went ahead and put our stop in based upon what? Our stop is always based. If you look right over here at this number under ATR, let me go and set it right there on it. You see it's $10.09. What is the ATR? Average true range. Now we use the 2-day average true range, that's this middle box, to set our profit and loss bands when we jump into a trade. And just to keep things simple and easy for everyone to follow, we jump into our trades Friday afternoon at the worst point. We just do it. When we have a green up candle, we jump in at the worst point. And you can see when I actually go, I'll go ahead and show you. We'll call up. You can see that the worst point to jump in was 440.93. You can see this 1009, that's $10.09. That's the ticks. Each tick is, if it's $10.09, it's 1,009. That's the way the ticks are set up. Now, this number here for the profit level would, of course, originally been set at 1009 also, because we sell half our trade when we hit that first profit level, and then we let the rest of it ride. So that, again, limits our losses if the market turns around on us, but allows us to go ahead and take a small profit and allow the rest of the trade to ride. And again, we do that on purpose in all of our trades because we want to minimize our losses and maximize our gains. Now, I'm going to have the always winning formula. I'm going to have that video at the end of today's video because I want you to understand, like say your X trade in every trade you do is $100,000. With $100,000, you say that's what I'm willing to put at risk not at risk. You're willing to trade $100,000 each time, but you're going to minimize your risk based upon what your stop is. And here you can see your stop is 2.29%. Well, if you multiply 100 by 2.9%, 2.29%, and you've determined that you want to risk every single time, you want to risk 1%, and you want to make 1% and then try to let the rest of it ride to a higher number, then you would divide 100 by 2.29. You get 44,000 something. And then, of course, what happens is if it goes down and hits the loss, the stop loss, what you would end up doing, and I can show you that number again, if it goes down to 430.84, then you would close your $44,800, something like that trade, and you would have lost $1,000. If that doesn't happen and you let the trade continue going, then you would sell half of it when it goes up $10.09, and you would let the other half of that trade, the other $22,000, you would let it ride. Now, you could go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to be happy every single time to risk $1,000 and to make $2,000. So I'll risk 1% of the original $100,000 by reducing, again, based upon the volatility, the size of my trade. And I'm going to pretty much stop there because I'm literally getting into the video that I've already told you I'm going to put at the end of today's video. But I just want you to understand there are all sorts of ways to reduce your risk, to take your standard trade, reduce it for volatility so that you're not throwing $100,000 into the market and potentially losing, half of it. There's all sorts of things you can do to minimize risk. And also at the same time, as your skill set goes up in being able to use volume, being able to use Heikin Ashi candlesticks, and I've got a great training for you today. The training we have for you today is all about what Jesse Livermore taught about volume, and you're going to love that. If you're a subscriber, it's in your show notes. So I want you to get it, read it, enjoy it. Yesterday we had another training, or earlier in the week we had another training on volume. I'm trying to get you to understand the interplay between the Heikin Ashi candlesticks and volume. Very, very important. And then using trend lines. So how far has this trade gone so far? Well, you can see at the top in the green there it is up top, 7.44%. So if you would have done our standard formula, sold half your trade when it went up $10.09 and made $2.29%, and then let the rest of it run, your other half of your trade, the other half of the money that you didn't sell, would have gone up a total of 7.44%. That's what we call minimizing our risk, cutting our losses, and letting our profits run. Now, these are all practice trades. We don't give market advice. We want you to practice with us. Doesn't cost you anything. Now, if you start getting good at this and you think you really know what you're doing, here's how you keep yourself honest. You go in and on a big expensive ETF like the S&P 500, if you've got a broker that will let you buy fractional shares, maybe you buy $100 worth of the S&P 500, and then you practice trade that. So you use a little bit of real money, but not too much that you're literally throwing potentially thousands away because you don't know what you're doing. So please practice to show yourself approved. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. You don't just throw money at things. That's called gambling. And we're talking about the stock market, not Las Vegas. Let's jump into these charts. I've run my mouth long enough. Thank you for putting up with me. S&P 500 down 0.57%, not 5%, 0.57%. Beautiful week. Look at that high volume. Look at that nice candle. Things are just beautiful. 2-day chart. Again, this is just the Friday, the first day of the latest 2-day candle. Not as high as the prior candle. We can see where Friday was a bit of an off day. We've had those before and the markets are covered. Maybe it's topped. I don't know. But we don't have anything to tell us to get out yet. So we'll see how things go this next week as we move, up to Christmas. What's up with the NASDAQ 100? It was the converse, the inverse of the S&P, it was up about the same percentage that the S&P was down, 0.48%. Nice week. You can see that we hit average volume. First day of the latest 2-day candle. Let's see, the prior high was 406.30, 406.54, so went a little higher. And again, beautiful. Almost a ditto on the S&P 500. What about 20-year bonds? Man, they just keep going. Look at all that volume. Look at that gigantic candle. Look at how profitable this trade has been, this practice trade has been to us. Just beautiful. Now, gold, as I was telling you, all things being equal, market tends to move in the direction of the largest chart. And we pierced the weekly trend line, and we ended up with a spinning top with, look at that, just above average volume. We had that high mark on volume when it peaked, then it started to die, and now we've seen it really start to pull over. Now, we still have a spinning top, still lots of indecision there, and these latest two-day candles, well, it's 3 days. It's one full 2-day candle and a half of a 2-day candle a day. But we have a green spinning top, and we have this one moving up. You can see on the half day how where the real pop-up was Thursday morning. Then petering off Thursday, Friday morning, and rolling over on Friday. So we'll see as this new week starts if gold is really going to trundle down on us. Now, what about Bitcoin? A weaker week. I mean, we got a lot of volume here. We got that red, which means, again, nothing more than the new candle this week opened at a lower price than the prior candle this week, last week ended. That's the week beginning the 4th of December. This week beginning the 11th of December, it started out with a lower price. That's all this red means. It doesn't mean negative volume. But we have it marked that way so we get a good idea as to how things started off. And you can see this latest 2-day candle trying to push through. The wick did push through the weekly trend line. So again, Bitcoin may have hit its top. I say may. We will keep a close eye on things. You can see down in the morning, not quite as much in the afternoon, 1.60%. So we will be paying close attention to Bitcoin. And, you know, when it popped up before, it really just slid sideways but kept edging up, then popped. This one, not so much. So we'll be very curious to see how Monday starts. That is where we are, folks. I hope you like the training or the always winning method at the end of today's video. And also those of you who are subscribers for free, we never spam or share that list. You'll also be getting the Jesse Livermore volume strategy. God bless. Patreon members, thank you the most. You're the ones that help underwrite the channel. We love you. If you're not a Patreon member, you care about what we do, you appreciate it, show a little love. Heck, it's the season of joy and giving. So help us. First thing you'll get is Options Made Simple, the Charting Wealth Way 3-part series. Plus every week, 3-wave trades, weekly vertical crossovers, and early access to charting cryptos, commodities, and currencies. God bless, my friends. Happy Hanukkah on the last day of Hanukkah, and Merry Christmas.